to
Um,
see you.
did you have any, I don't know, any questions or thoughts, or do you want me to jump in, or what do you?
I've just kind of been, I've been reading throughout the week, the different questions and thinking about different things, and then I go to, oh well, I'm kind of down on myself a lot of the times where I'm like, oh well, I'm thinking just share what you need to share, and then I'm thinking, oh, what if I don't get out right what I need to. So I just said a prayer that
Yeah,
before I got back on, or I got on with you, and I'm like, just help me to just be open and honest and not to be afraid of sharing what I feel I need to share, or will be, the questions asked, and to be honest, I guess is more the
yeah.
main thing. So
I love it. I love that you came to it with prayer, because I feel I need to do that too. I mean, I also, I'm having my own thoughts. Well, I hope I asked the right questions. So, welcome to the Superstition Springs Ward Podcast, episode number 4, and I'm here with Erin Lineberry. Um, and I'm gonna start with the question that just popped into my head, that you didn't even know I was gonna ask you. But Lineberry, it's such an
uh-huh.
interesting last name. Do you know anything about the last name?
It's my married last name.
Yeah.
I do know that there's some kind of descent. They live in North Carolina, so they're more like in that side of the area where they live. But I think there's some Russian or
Okay.
something behind it.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't Lineberry at first, but it was something. It was another name before, and they kind of, as time went on, shortened it. And
Yeah.
um, so it is. It's funny because people complicate it. It's Lineberry, just
Mhm.
how it sounds, but
So,
it's so easy to complicate it. So
yeah, you kind of want to make it sound
yes, yeah,
fancy.
Lineberry.
Lindaberry.
Linberry, yes, exactly. I get a lot of Linberries, which doesn't offend me. It's not my. It was my taken name, or I
Yeah.
took on the
What's
name. So
what's your maiden name?
it's Relis,
How do you
but
spell?
it's Ruelas. So
Okay.
depending on how you speak it,
Yeah.
I believe it's French, Spanish, but how I heard it's Ruelas, for those
Ah,
that have really good accents.
yeah.
But I always said Relis.
Okay.
So it's kind of the U is non-existent. Relis.
Okay. Yeah. You
So
roll your R's so well when you
you
do.
know, I should be way better at that because it's in the family. So, but thank you.
You did great. You did great.
Thank
Okay, so let's talk about how you came to be in the Superstition Springs ward in the first place. What kind of led you to here?
So, really cool. It's kind of a really cool story, but over time. So I moved here. I was searching. I had been trying to find a home for myself and my two little ones, who at the time were about, I think they were 6 and 7. So we're trying to find something stable on my income as a single mom. So I got the idea of renting rooms, and we had done that. Um, Probably for about a year and didn't have much very good success. Um, and so my parents own this house that I'm actually living in, and came to me a couple of years ago and said, "Hey, we realize you're working really hard, and you have the kids, and we'd like to offer you a home that we have rented out." Or we rent it out, and we'd like to offer it to you. We can talk about the specialties, or the specifics, I should say. But we'd like to offer it to you. And so I came here. I was, of course, so happy because it was a home.
Yes.
Um, and at the time, before I moved in here, I was renting a room from a lady in my old ward. Excuse me. And in my adult life, that was the only word that I was really tied to for myself as a wife, as a mom, as a family member.
Mhm.
in that role. And so I just never thought I would find another word that could replace that. So I came from that word and I kind of struggled. I went back to that word several times, like, nope, nope, not ready. And it
Mhm.
took me a couple of years to actually start consistently going to church. I would come here and there, and I got a calling. And I would get super excited. Um, but it was the consistency of the members of the word that would just kept reaching out, reaching out.
Oh,
And it was like, it was so gentle, hey, I saw you live on our street, or, you have a couple kids. I have
mhm.
kids, let's hang out sometime, or just little things. And not only did it help us to feel more settled in our home, but also gave myself a newer testimony and kind of a new start in
Yeah.
life per se. And my younger two, we were really super. We were going to church a lot consistently. So when they came here, they found their place too.
Right.
So it was all around just a really cool blessing, I would
Oh,
say. So
I
yeah, I
love it.
fought it a little bit. I fought this word a little bit, but this is
Yeah.
now my home.
I love that. I love that you felt welcomed and that yeah, people just that persistent reaching out made a difference for you. And
Did.
it takes so long to build those new relationships. And
It
anytime
does.
you move or start something new like that, just those friendships just they take so many interactions and slowly getting more comfortable with each other. So
Yeah.
uh,
And just knowing you're a part of and not, you'll I think I come from a place in my life where I always felt like, oh, people are looking at me or they're judging this or that. And this word, I just kind of realized I'm gonna go. I have to show a good example. And the people that I got to meet, it was just I never felt judgment. I just always felt welcomed and hey, we'll see you, hopefully see you next time. Or
mhm.
um, it was so amazing and comfortable. And I had never, in the small little details I look back on and I can see it way more evident than I did at the time. But yeah, it was just those small little things that led up to just me feeling absolutely like this is the place I'm supposed to be right now.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to say that I feel like you are one of those people who has such a warm presence that other people, that you provide that thing that are saying that you're getting from the word. You very much provide that for people. You're someone I think that, I don't know, you just can feel naturally comfortable with. You're very,
Oh,
very open and authentic and friendly and warm. Anyway.
thank you. That's very kind. I really do. I'm uncomfortable with the comment. It's so uncomfortable for me to take that, but I appreciate that very much because
Yeah.
I try to be the best Erin I can be, and I feel I'm hardest on myself as we all are.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I appreciate that very much.
Of course, of course. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about Erin and what you were like as a child. I like diving into this question with people because, I do think that there's something so exciting about how different we all are, how we come into the world differently. Um,
Mhm.
can you describe yourself as a child?
Yeah, I think I've had I had some probably early teens trauma. So I blocked a little bit out of my life, I think, just but I have in my mind, I had the perfect childhood, my little Erin world. I was a happy go lucky. I made friends. I felt easily. We had a neighborhood where there was kids always outside, and so you just, I don't know, every other house had a group of kids that kind of fell in line with my siblings. So we're just outside, and I just felt like life was easy. And yeah,
Mhm.
I was in this little bubble of happiness, and it
Yeah.
just, it was, I never questioned anything. And I had a dad that worked hard and a mom that stayed home and took care of our needs. And It
Yeah.
just was pretty, was pretty perfect. Um, and I had great family around. So I school came easy. It was fun growing up. I have a lot of good memories of playing friends in the neighborhood and
Mhm.
silly games that my siblings and I would play. My dad playing practical jokes, just different things that I have glimpses of, that just simple, very usually very simple things, but
Yeah.
just easygoing. Just I think I was just a pretty easygoing little girl that just kind of accepted things. Everything was good. I was Cinderella was going to be my story, and
Yeah.
that's a pretty fun way to be, to feel, to grow up. So,
Remember anything in particular that you love to do or a favorite place you like to be or game, activity?
yeah, I loved to be outside. We would ride our bike. I would go on my bike and I would just ride. Um, Whether it was a big wheel and I would just kind of take a little curb, take a curb. Um, I always felt like I was a little free when I was on my bike. Nobody could touch me or I also rode horses, just Western for just with some family friends in our ward. And that also too was just something that was so freeing and so beautiful and grounding and um so I think yeah, riding my bike was a big one. And then riding horses, I guess, is another one that's pretty significant that
Oh, I love
brings
that.
me happiness.
Kinda every little girl's dream is to be around horses. Is that seems like a theme.
Yes, it is. It's
Yeah.
like the handsome cowboy, I don't know, for me it was like the cowboy that rescues you and you live on a farm and I don't know, it is the epitome riding a horse in the wind. It is. I grew up watching and listening to Little House on the Prairie. So that was amazing. Pioneers and so it was you're right. It was a pretty cool
That's great.
thought.
Yeah, yeah. And where are you in the sibling lineup?
So I'm the oldest of my blood siblings. So when my mom and dad had four of us, I'm the oldest of the four.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it.
The oldest taking care of everybody and love it. Love it.
Do you still feel like that today? Are you still taking care of them?
Yeah, I still like to take care of people. Not necessarily my siblings as much, but I just like, any my cat. I love that I'm still raising kids. It's hard, man, it is tough, but I love the fact that I'm still able to be a mom.
Mhm.
It's going to be different when I'm in a different phase of mom, but so I do like it. I do like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there anything today that sort of does it for you or that lights you up?
So I think that so I was a collector of rocks, especially in my early marriage years. In my 20s, I sought out looking after those heart rocks. Oh man, every chance I could get.
I love that.
Um, but I do love to be outdoors, and I I'm kind of finicky with the weather because I don't like it too cold and I don't like it too hot, and I don't like it windy, and so it has to be the perfect temperature. But in my perfect world, but in my perfect world would be in a perfect outside sitting. Um, if I could sit in grass, just on a mountain in grass, and just look out,
Mhm.
um, the vastness of in like a big mountains, or you
Mhm.
know, where I could see all the waterfalls and water and animals, even bugs crawling on me. In fact,
Yeah.
um, but just sitting outdoors is probably the most peaceful, grounding place that I've ever felt or found.
I love that.
Outside.
It's really powerful, isn't it? It feels it's immediately healing, I think.
It is.
Something about being outside.
It is. It as I've gotten older too, it causes me to remember that I am such a small part, of the world. It's not all about me. Growing up, I just, even if I was feeling sorry for myself, it was still about me.
Right.
So, that's very humbling to be able to sit somewhere for me to sit somewhere and just look out and be like, "Oh, I'm very minuscule and minute and so little compared to what's actually out there." And so
Yeah.
it's humbling. It's very humbling.
Yeah, and I love the image you chose of sitting on a mountain because you're seeing, you're able to look out over the vastness of life, like you said. It's a different vantage point.
It
Um,
is.
yeah,
Yes.
so powerful. All right, so let's talk about experiencing the love and light of Christ in your life. Would you be willing to share? And remember, you can pass on any question that I ask, but
Sure.
willing to share some time in your life where you felt like you really needed the hand of God in your life, and it was there.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's still continually, depending on the situation, but there's a couple times that in particular that um I can remember that one time was I struggle with alcoholism. I'm a recovering alcoholic.
Mhm.
Some people say recovered. I don't know what the right term is, but so I struggle with addiction and alcoholism, and went through the AA program and um, trying to find myself. I I just remember um, blaming everybody for everything I did in my life, and then going on the other side and realizing I had a part in everything that had happened in my life, good or bad. And so I just remember I was sober at this point and trying to stay sober. I had a period of about 2 years. I was in the program and I would get it for a period of time and then I would, be, oh, I'm good. But I also had young kids. I had a couple of teenagers. I had a new marriage and a stepson. And there was a lot just I was trying to overcome.
Wow.
And I just remember this one day I was struggling and there was some negative things that had happened. And I thought that um, I just didn't want to live anymore. There was no place for me. I didn't imagine how I would do anything. I don't have that kind of problem, but or I don't have those thoughts. I should say not problem, but those thoughts, those deep thoughts. But
Mm.
lots of thoughts that I had about why me. And I remember this one particular day. Excuse me. I was by myself. I was in a panic attack, and I just felt so lonely. I
Mm.
felt so alone. Um, and I didn't know where to reach. I didn't know what to do. And I called my sister, and she's a recovering alcoholic. And I just said, I don't know what to do. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I know I said, I don't know what to do. I feel this absolute sense of doom and loneliness and just the bottom of of everything. And I mean, I can't even go to how I felt because it was so dark. And I
Mhm.
remember my sister saying to me, out of all the things she said, which is, very knowledgeable in the area that I was feeling, she said, I want you to remember that feelings aren't fact. And I also want you to remember that um, the feelings that if you can feel these and feel through them, that you will never feel lonely again. And um,
Mm.
I feel that all the time. I've never felt that place again. ever. But because of that time, of
Mm,
what she said, and obviously now I see that I reach out to Heavenly Father that I am never alone. I really am not. But
yeah.
in my own thinking and place that I was, you know, and I'm so glad that she said that to me because that that has changed my life and my loneliness and my perception of depression and times that I feel I'm gonna go there again. I never will go there. I just have never been able to get that deep again, and I'm so grateful for that.
Wow, it's so
So,
amazing that it clicked in that moment, like at your darkest point, that it clicked
yes,
and
I
that
was so happy.
yeah, I thank
Mhm.
you for sharing that. Um, yeah, feelings are not fact. Is that what she said? Feelings are not
She
fact.
did. Feelings are not fact.
Yeah,
And it didn't make sense to me at the time. It took me a while to really understand. That part didn't click right away.
yeah,
But I just remember a peace that came over me, and then, I ended up falling asleep out of pure exhaustion, probably, and waking up the next morning, and just, there was a little bit of hope. There was a little bit of light on that road,
yeah.
and that was my light. I was so yeah. It's funny because when I talk about it, it makes me uncomfortable still.
Really?
Um,
You know,
yes, it
why is that?
provides some uncomfortable feelings.
Interesting.
Um, and that's good because it reminds me that I don't have to ever be there again, and I haven't been there. So it's
Yeah.
I don't know, it's kinda it's, crazy. It's
And
pretty
I love that nothing circumstantial changed, just this perspective, this I guess
perspective.
maybe knowledge that the loneliness is an illusion, right? Just like
Yeah,
you know now that you're never alone. Um,
yeah,
yeah, that it really ties in with our we had a conversation before we started the podcast just about your day, and you were saying that knowing how to shift your attitude. Could you share a little bit about that? I know.
sure. So I had an experience. Yes, I did have an experience this morning. It was really cool. Um, I work as a caregiver and I have a client that I see daily, and I can go and take things for granted sometimes, and take advantage that things are so good and have good and bad days. But this morning in particular, I was kind of grumpy, and I woke up tired, and my kids were just wow. If I looked the one way, they said, "What are you looking at?" It's just one of
Mm,
those one of those mornings. Um, and it, the inner Erin wanted to scream out, and jump on them. So first of all, I didn't do that, which I commend myself because that's probably a once in a lifetime. But I just said,
Congratulations. Yes.
yes, yes, it was wow.
Yeah.
But I silenced myself and let them scream and let them do their thing and didn't take it as personal as I normally do. Um, but um, I went, or I remember telling my daughter at that time. I remember telling her something that I had learned. Um, you know, at any point we have the opportunity to change our perspective. Um, and at the time she was going through a lot, like three different people telling her things and feeling the weight of the world that was on her. um and I just said, you this is, you're having a rough morning, but it doesn't have to define your day. You can start over at any point. You can start over, and you don't have, you can listen to what those people had said, but you don't have to. It doesn't have to steer your way, your day.
Yeah.
So that I think, and I've heard that perspective, but it pops out of my. I don't know where it came from. Of course, it just popped out of my mouth. One of those tools that I had learned in therapy and in life challenges. But oh, I went to work, which sometimes, can be challenging for myself. And I was upset because my kids had just were grumpy and yelled at me, and I had contained my composure, and I felt like I had to release it. Um, but when I got to work, I just thought I probably should take my own advice and listen to what I just told my daughter. I can change my perspective. I don't have to let what my daughter, what happened to me and the targeting that I felt and the grumpy attitudes define my day. So I went into work and it was actually a beautiful day. It was so full of compliments, and we got things done, and there was a lot of peace. I didn't feel crazy. I didn't feel like I had to get a bunch of things done. I didn't feel like I had to focus, on doing something for my kids or me. It was just everything just kind of went. So I don't know.
I love it. I
It's,
love
it's kind of a wild, but taking your own advice sometimes. I should say myself, excuse me. My own advice sometimes is the best thing because I take it, but I don't always use it.
Yep, I think that's all of us, actually.
Oh,
And I'm finding that moment really powerful, and it's the same one you spoke to earlier, that moment of knowing that you have your agency, your control, that you're, um, we sometimes get attached to feelings and we just sort of let them, we just kind of habitually let them, um, carry us away down the river. That
you're
is
right.
so powerful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Exciting. I love learning these things about you. Is there is there any other stories that you want to share, or was that the one that came to mind?
That was one that came to mind, but I also, was thinking about my I've had kind of a journey in my life through growing up in the gospel and doing the next thing, the next thing I'm supposed to do. And it took me a long time to get to the temple. And um, I finally decided I put a lot of thought and prayer, and there were so many people along the journey, different things that they said just the right way, or those little tender mercies that just led me down the path where I could decide on my own and was comfortable and completely ready to go to the temple. Um, and it was an amazing day, as we all know. And I was on this Erin pink cloud, and it was beautiful, and I loved it. And it's still there. It's not completely gone, but I'm still.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but how long ago? This was pretty recently.
Yeah, so this was February 22nd, 2025. So 2/22/25
Okay.
was when I decided to go through on a Friday night at 7:30. I think it was the 7:30 session. So it was late, for like the people in my life. It was a late session, but I didn't know all the ins and outs and the rule. I don't know if there is any rules, but I didn't know all the considerate. Anyways, I just was so excited, and things just kept moving along so easily. I just felt like this was the right path and the right time. Um, so 2/22/25, I went through the Gilbert Temple, and one really quick thing I'll share is I had this lady that I had worked with a client a few months ago, and I had this beautiful lady. Um, she walked in. She's older. She's older than I am, and she grabbed me by the shoulders and she said, "Young lady, you need to get to the temple." And I am. Some people probably might have been offended. At a different time in my life, I might have been offended, but I felt like, whoa, okay, okay. And we were working in a member's home, and so the garments were talked about. So there's just these little tender
Little
mercies put in my heart.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, anyhow, fast forward. So, I ended up seeing this lady. I would see her a couple Saturdays. Our times would, our paths would cross at this family's house. We were both caregivers. And then I stopped working for them. And, it had been months. And I always thought about her, but not, intently, or she hadn't popped in my mind like, some people pop into my mind a lot, just here and there. And I had a very good relationship with her. Nothing bad happened, but so I ended up doing this session, and I walk in, and the first person I see when I walk in with open arms was this lady. And I will tell you what, that is not a coincidence. I know the Lord placed her in my life at that time, and has also placed her in my life at that time, at this time, and at both those experiences, because it just showed me that He's there, and in the little things. My goodness, and sometimes I need a little whack on the head for certain things, but it was so tender. So like I said, I just went on this pink cloud, and that was a really cool experience, and the whole experience was amazing. And then I was happy. I went to the temple every week after that. And then just with whoever I could, or I just tried, the best I could to get there. And the last time that I had went, the temple is closed for cleaning, I think, but it's closed right now. We can't go and do any services. But I went in. My last session a couple weeks ago, I went in, and it was beautiful. Of course it was, and I felt so good. But um, I went home, and I just kind of felt like, oh, okay, like that was amazing, but it wasn't like amazing, and it was amazing, but I just didn't have that first experience amazing right then. And I didn't notice it until I've actually talked about this through, and we've discussed this, and I've prayed and thought about and wrote a lot about this actually. Um Kind of struggling, and I went in this little kind of a dip, and I remember, in certain times in my life when I got sober, I was on a pink cloud. When I went to detox, I came home and I was on this pink cloud. When I got baptized, um, when different things in my life, I've had these pink clouds, especially with the church, these pink clouds I come into. But I came into my mind and I talked it through with you, I believe, or the person that kind of brought it to light. I was like, oh, I still have this. I still have the feelings, and I still am so grateful that I'm part of the church. I'm so grateful for the choice I made to go through the temple, and the people and all the experiences, and the many different feelings, good and bad. Um, but I just kind of brought me to that. Whoa, this is, something I need to remember, and kind of, the Spirit, I feel like, really spoke to me just a couple minutes ago to bring that feeling of me, like, or
Yeah.
to bring that feeling into my heart, like, yes, it is true. You got to see this lady beforehand, and then she showed up at the temple just in the right time. And just because you're not on this pink cloud doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect and lovely all the time, but that the Lord is still there. He's still in my heart. He's still always there. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm obviously still kind of going through the feeling of accepting that and realizing that pink cloud little feeling.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Sorry.
so, oh no, it's just, it is. I love that I can recognize it, and that you did help me to recognize that.
Yeah.
Um,
Love
because
that
I
too.
see it
Just
like it.
just for the listener, I'll just chime in real quick that we had a
Sure.
pre-interview conversation where we were just talking about that phenomenon of that pink cloud. I love that you use the word pink cloud. I'm going to use that from now on.
I
This
love
pink cloud, and often at church we'll only hear about the pink cloud story, but not so much about that anticlimactic sort of like aftermath
Right.
where there's, reality. We're kind of still living in reality. It doesn't necessarily always feel, this amazing, feeling,
Right.
but how we cope with that. So I love that you're sharing this. It's so relevant.
I think, if anybody's listening that has had a baby, that pink cloud of having that baby, and then everybody's there and it's so exciting, and then they go away. And then you're sitting there with this human. At least for me, I was like, oh my goodness, this most perfect thing. I'm gonna ruin it. That's me. And this, that, so I'm glad, I'm so thankful that we have each other, for goodness sakes, to help us work through our hiccups and our feelings. Satan is real. His feeling, his work is real. It is real. He works on me really, really heavy. So
Yeah. Yeah.
he knows um where I how I tick, my light where my light shines. He knows what makes me happy and
He's amazing. He's doing this kind of custom tailored
yeah,
teaching
he
for every one of
does.
us. Yeah.
You said that so perfectly, Wendy. That's right. He does. He just like Christ. Christ is more of a gentleman, but he shows this gentlemanly, um, beautiful man that just is going to swoop you up and solve your problems. In my particular life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it is a life. I feel like these experiences are. I'm here today and understanding this today because of past things. And
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I'll tell you, 6 months ago, I don't even think I pictured myself walking through the temple and being a part of and taking upon myself,
Amazing.
Christ. So you
Amazing.
never know.
Bravo. So much courage. So much.
Never know.
Yeah.
I don't know courage, but I just know that I have such a support system and um perspective. People around me just help the perspective of the glass half full and the celestial perspective. And I am so blessed. Oh, hold on just a second. Ah, I'm so sorry. I pushed the wrong
Fine.
button.
No, it gave
I
me a minute
pushed
to drink some water. I was like, she'll be
my
back.
I was like such on a roll. I feel so bad.
No, don't feel bad. No, everything you're saying is great.
Wow.
I love this conversation so much.
Yeah, I love realness, and I think that's beautiful. I mean, it's really hard for me now. I think more in my life it is a little bit easier, but to be that real Erin, because who wouldn't accept me, or who wouldn't like this, or I always try to make everything perfect. So I love that. We don't have to be perfect because that's not really our job. And so I love that I get a little bit of relief if I can remember to remind myself, just keep
Yeah.
striving.
When we share some of our struggles, I think with each other, I think it helps too, just to um, overcome that perfectionism where we think we have to be a certain way. And then, in one of our conversations previous to this interview, we talked about um, just how that helps us feel, and it gives us more grace for ourselves, right? When
It
we're
does.
that, it's easy to think of other people as having it all together, and then we compare ourselves to this, perfect picture we have of other people, and yeah, it always helps me when people are real. So thank you so much for being willing to share, yeah, pieces of your story.
Yeah. I mean, I hope, I've been through a lot. I've I've been through anxiety, depression, alcoholism. I'm a parent of a divorce, and I'm also a divorcee. I'm in the club, all kinds of clubs, and um, have tattoos. Um, I mean, even I'll just say, like, I'm kind of hard on myself in that manner, especially like with my peers. I mean, I never feel like I'm say the right things or I'm good enough or and but I think we all are saying that. I think we're all I don't know. I just the more I get to know people, it seems like we're all kind of feeling that way. We're all worried about I don't know. I think there are probably some that are stronger than others, but for me, I love to be able to hear other real stories of people that have made mistakes or what did you do when you got in that situation?
Exactly.
Because if we're not able to share our vulnerabilities, um, then it's harder to connect, I think. And I don't know.
Agree completely. Yeah. Yeah, and it makes you I think it helps me accept myself more when I hear someone sharing something that sort of that reflects this struggle that I've been through that I don't think anybody would understand or know about. Then I go, "Oh,
Right.
they're out there with it." And so it just helps me accept and love myself more and um yeah, relax into this imperfect, you know, walking with God, right? We're
Yeah.
just striving, just like you said.
I love the I've heard this phrase recently and I've used it a couple times recently, but perfectly imperfect.
Oh, yes, that I love
And I mean I've heard it all throughout my life, but just recently I'm like, it's not an excuse, but it gives me the patience with myself.
yeah.
But cuz
Well, so I also want to ask you, mm, if you were just suddenly transported by time machine to 100 years in the future and you could leave a message for your posterity, what would be one thing you would really want to leave behind?
oh gosh, there's so many that I thought of. Um but I think probably the number one thing is just accept and love. Accept and love and be patient. So
Mhm.
you just never know where somebody's at. You never know what kind of difference or what kind of place you have in somebody else's life.
Yeah,
I don't know if that all wrapped up, kind of all wrapped up into one, but just love.
yeah. It sounds so simple, but what a perfect formula for life. I feel like if we could do that, we would get to the end and not have any regrets, right?
You are right. Yes, you
Love
are
it.
true. That's a good
Yeah.
point.
You have so much wisdom. You're just like you said, you've been through so many different things, you've experienced so many different things. And with that, right? And that's why we're here, right? With that comes the wisdom that you've gained. And so thank you for being willing to share that.
Of
Uh,
course. Of
uh,
course.
is there anything I'm kind of throwing you off a little bit, but is there anything that people wouldn't normally know about you that you wouldn't mind people asking? I just want to create a little conversation piece for, people see you and what is something you wouldn't mind people asking you about that you could tell a story about that
Sure. I mean, I'm always willing to talk about my alcoholism.
mhm,
Um, and that the I love the fact that what we think inside I'm trying to put it in perspective or try to put it into so the way that I'm kind of a everything's fine person. I got this, everything's fine. And um I think inwardly everything's not always fine, but I learned to say,
mhm,
no, things aren't okay. Um, and, but I know it also makes me very vulnerable.
mhm.
So, um, let's see, there's a lot of things. I have some hearing loss. So if you've said something to me and I haven't responded, or responded the right way, it's probably because I didn't hear you. Um, and for that, I have a lot of anxieties. I have some generalized anxiety, but um,
You mean around the hearing loss?
I think so. I think because I don't really know. I think in the beginning it was as I was a teenager, are they talking about me? or because I just didn't feel like if I said something, I would question what I would say. Was that cool? Was it not cool? It was just really, I
Yeah.
was really hard, on myself.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, I just think I just grew up with that generalized anxiety of making everybody happy. So
Can
I
I
don't know.
jump in with a question?
Yeah.
You talked about that anxiety, and I've heard this. My mother, who had a hard time hearing, she talked about she would get really nervous in public because she'd be missing things, and then
Mhm.
she'd be mishearing it, and then she would be worried that people thought she was being rude when it's really that she didn't hear it. Anyway, so there's this whole thing that comes with the not being able to hear super well. Did
That's
you that
true.
make sense? Like, is that what you were talking about in terms of anxiety, or am
Yeah,
I making up another
completely.
story?
No, I mean, that's probably a lot of where it's driven from. Because I just, had no kind of not an idea what was really going around me. I hear, even now, I notice when I'm listening intently, I do hear most of what people are saying, but it's because of all the practice of all my life of trying to get the gist of something that I can kind of get most of the gist. But yeah, I think it definitely derives from there.
Yeah.
Um, and then, I don't probably circumstances in my life of trying to I mean, I was a problem solver when I was growing up. I could solve anybody else's problems and help this friend or that friend. But inside, I didn't have all the answers, but I just always wanted to be there for that person or there to help somebody. Um, but yeah, so I like to hide a lot of my inner feelings for fear of um someone not accepting it, or maybe I heard something wrong. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think I just question myself as a person, probably. And as a day to day, am I doing the right thing? Am I fulfilling? Am I making this person happy? Being around them. Um, Most of the time, it's kind of an acceptance process because I've done it for so long. It's like, well, I do my best, and that's the best I can do, but yeah, I don't know if anybody struggles with that, like day to day, um, not knowing what to say, or the fear of saying the wrong thing, or not living up to standards, that I think I should be up to par.
And I think you're speaking to um, well, insecurities. I think we all carry, but plenty of people, especially today, have this anxiety, social anxiety, right? That's
Yeah, you are
yeah,
right.
and I have what I like to call a vulnerability hangover, or like when you question the conversation you just had after you had it, you're playing it over and over in your head afterwards, and it can be painful. It can be,
Yes. I love that hangover.
yeah,
I resonate with that because it is a vulnerability hangover. It's heavy. That's heavy.
yes.
It's very heavy.
I really hope that in heaven,
We
on the other
don't,
side of the veil, we just communicate like by the Spirit so perfectly.
yeah.
Right?
We can just say and have fun. Yeah. We don't have to worry, Wendy, okay?
Too painful.
Oh,
Too painful.
I do too. I do
Oh,
too. At
yeah.
least, this day and age, I used to go to sleep. Well, I used to lay in bed worrying about my conversations with people and what I didn't say or did say. Or at least today, I have a little bit of acceptance where I did my best. I we all do our best. So today, I think that comes with time too, and knowledge that I am not the center of the universe. And somebody, somebody probably didn't care as much as I thought they did. And not that I'm offended by it, but they probably didn't. So
Right,
that's
right. And
okay.
that's usually true, right? We're
Yeah.
so much more
Yeah.
concerned than anybody
And
else.
that is freedom right there. Oh my goodness. That is complete freedom.
Oh, what a great word, freedom.
Mhm.
Is there anything else I didn't ask you that you would like to share or you feel is important to share?
I just no, I'm just super grateful. I'm not very good at thanking or sharing my testimony, especially in church, but I am so thankful. I am so thankful for our word. Every single person that I've come in contact with and will continue to come in contact with. Um just you put yourself in the right places, the Lord puts the right people in your life, and
Mm. Yeah,
it's such a tender mercy. It really is. So,
thank you. Thank you.
yes.
Yes. Thank you so
Yes.
much. Yeah. And I think people can feel it you have a graciousness about you just in your tone. And so I know that people feel that even if you're not saying it outwardly all the time. Yeah, you have a graciousness about you. So
I hope they do, because I hope I bring safety somewhere,
you do. You absolutely
to
do.
me. I have a very open, non judgmental heart, and I just love it when we're able to share with each other. So it is very freeing. So
Mm.
I love this podcast. This is amazing. What a great idea. What a
Oh,
great
thank
idea.
you. So, I mean, you shared yourself. Thank you so much. You took the time to do it. Had to think about it and
I did. This is not for somebody like me. It's it's not easy. I don't like to talk about myself. I don't like to give myself any grace. Um, but I think we all need to give ourselves a little bit of the pat on the back and a little bit of, we're all striving, and so, and to learn that we're not all perfect. Oh my goodness, because I think a lot of people are. There's a lot of people that I'm like, they've got it all together. They've got this. And then when I find out things, or when I hear that I have something in common, it is the most beautiful to me. It's the most beautiful relationship that you
Yeah,
can build. So just being there for each other.
it's a gift. It's a
It
gift.
is. It is. We're
Thank, thank you.
Of course, of course.
So let's keep the conversation going. I hope that people, listen to this and they feel like they can, talk to you about some of the things that you spoke about here. And we just keep building those connections. And we do have a positive, connected community in our ward.
It's different. There's something different. And I won't ever be able to describe it. But it's very different and unique and special.
Yeah.
Very thankful to be in this word. Well,
Thank you, Erin. All
thank
right.
you, Wendy.
So, yep. So thanks for everybody for listening to our episode 4 with Erin Lineberry.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Wendy.